I'm Marguerite from MoveToTacoma.com, and I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Anders. Welcome, Anders.
Great to be here, thank you.
And Anders, you're so great and have you're so great. I mean, you have such an interesting perspective as a realtor because of your background on the city council, your longtime residence here in Tacoma, and also like your background as an appraiser. So I really value your perspective.
Thank you.
And the thing that I wanted to talk about today was folks who think they are priced out of Tacoma.
You're not.
Okay, well, spoiler, you're not. I have kind of like a relationship with this conversation because when I bought my first house in Pierce County, in 2005, I thought I was priced out. And I found out about owner-occupied, like investment type loans. I bought a duplex, lived in one side, rented out the other, and somebody else paid half my mortgage. And that's how I was able to own my first home. And a lot of people don't know about this option.
Oh, yeah.
And they think, they look at the median home price and they're like $375,000. Like, I could never afford a, $2,500, $2,800 mortgage. Oh, but I could buy a $375,000 duplex and afford a $1,400 or $1,500 a month mortgage. Please verify those numbers with your lender, folks. Like, what do you say to folks who are trying to come up with a creative way to stay in Tacoma?
Right. And you're talking not just the entry-level price, but you're also talking about monthly costs and keeping that under control.
Absolutely. Like, let's talk about that. Like, how does that all work? What is your advice for folks who are wanting to try to find a scenario like this that's more creative?
Well, the first bit of advice is don't get hung up on the monthly costs because when you own, they stay the same. That's the biggest thing to take away, right? So what has the average rental increase been in Tacoma? It's been absurd for so many renters in all of our neighborhoods, right? But
that's the reason a lot of us are looking at homeownership to begin with.
Right, and don't discount that. Even if it seems really daunting at first, those payments are going to stay the same over time for the most part. And so we have so many great programs out there. Even if you just want to get a regular house, leaving aside the investment opportunities, with 3.5% down FHA home loan, you can have down payment assistance on top of that, which
from the state.
Right, from the state or from the city even, and the payments on those loans aren't due until you sell the house.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's a really big deal. I mean, this wasn't in Tacoma, but I mean, recently I closed about a couple months ago on a Buckley property. Don't judge. It's the greater Pierce County area.
Safe space.
Okay, thank you. And no kidding, and this is a good house too. It was just a little under $400,000. These first-time buyers got into it with about $600 out of pocket.
Wow.
So they got their earnest money back, and the $600 was their inspection. So
wow, unbelievable.
And they got a bunch of repairs. They got their closing costs paid for. So those things can happen even in today's competitive market for decent properties. So I wouldn't discount that first off.
So what is the traits that a buyer needs to have in order to take advantage of these kinds of opportunities that like different types of loans and stuff? I imagine you need to be a little flexible as far as neighborhood and home style, right?
You have to be clear. That's the most important thing, and that's something I'm really keen on whenever I work with buyers, is being really clear on not just the what, but the why. So not just I want 3 bedrooms, I want X thousand square feet lot size, but why? Is it privacy? Do you want to grow things? Do you want to have room to grow? Do you want to have multi-generational living with with an accessory dwelling unit? So getting to the why not only gives you greater clarity and gives you better peace of mind, but it also opens up more possibilities you might not have considered, and that's where the best deals are. That's
really awesome. So I just want to throw out a couple of pro tips that I have and a couple of facts that are helpful for folks that are creative, and then if you can think of any tips that you have too. I think most Americans that don't have generational wealth behind them when they buy their first house, they go FHA or VA, right? So if somebody's not giving you 20%, I didn't know this when I bought my first house. Most people don't put 20% down on a house.
You know the average is nationally?
No.
5%. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're going FHA or VA, if you're getting a government loan, like first of all, it's super normal. I'm sure you know zillions of lenders that can set someone up to figure out how that would work. But what I didn't know is that those lenders allow you to buy up to 4 units. The other thing I didn't know, so you can
buy... For the same amount down, too.
For the same amount down. So you can do a 3.5% down FHA loan. If you're qualified, you have to talk to your lender, but if you're qualified, you can get an FHA loan with 3.5% down, and you could buy a fourplex. And if that fourplex has 3 units that are, let's say the rents are, let me make the math easy for myself, $3,000 a month, $1,000 a month from each unit, FHA is actually going to give you credit for a portion of those rents towards your income. So you might think, oh, that fourplex is really cool, but I don't qualify for a $500,000 fourplex. Well, FHA, with the income from the rents, you probably do.
And if one of those units is vacant, they can count 75% of the market rent.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So if you have 2 units, let's say you're buying a fourplex in, I'm going to make it up now, Spanaway for $500,000, which is kind of the market price for some fourplexes, although I've seen some good deals recently. In that particular area, maybe a 2-bedroom would probably go for at least $1,100 maybe, inching towards $1,200, right? So let's say you've got 4 units, you want to live in one of them that's vacant, and there's 2 that are rented out currently for, let's say, $1,100. You would count that for your debt to income ratio, which your lender would use to see if you can qualify. And that vacant unit, let's say that the rent has crept up to $1,200 per month, you could count 75% of that.
You know, I think this is where you're getting a little bit nerdy and a little bit, you said debt to income ratio, like I think some of us, like, our hair's blowing back.
I've worked with underwriters for way too long.
You have. So I think the point I'm trying to make, and I don't know if you want to make another point before we close out, is just that there are a lot of choices.
Many.
A lot of options. They might not look like, you know, a picket fence and a 4-bedroom, 2-bath in, you know, Lincoln District. Like, it might look different for you, but like there are a lot of options in Tacoma, right?
There are. And can I give you one more?
Yeah.
All right. So recently the city of Tacoma, and I was really proud to have voted on this back when I was a council member, the city of Tacoma opened up more possibilities for what are called ADUs, or accessory dwelling units. So if you have a detached garage, for example, and you wanted to convert it or build a loft above it, or just build something outright in your backyard, you have way more latitude to do that if you're in basically any single family zoned neighborhood. And there's some cost associated with it, but increasingly there's a kind of a group of contractors who are starting to enter the market to help with financing that. So you could either spend, you know, about $100,000, or if you have your standard like 1,000 square foot type of layout, or maybe as low as $60,000 if you're building on existing foundation for a small, like a studio where a garage was. But instead of paying cash, there are many increasing opportunities for financing that. And then you can pay that back well over time through the longer term rent. Let's say you have a college kid living there maybe, or maybe a caretaker for someone who's aging in place. Or you can just have family live there with you, and you could have multi-generational living, free daycare, many opportunities.
That's a great tip. Thank you, Anders.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we have given you a little bit of hope and a little bit of inspiration as you may or may not begin to embark on your homeownership journey. If you're interested in finding out more about creative options for buying a place here in Tacoma, hit the contact form on movetotacoma.com. Thanks, Anders.